And how does an attorney find what type of law they actually want to practice?
You got to do what I did, which is you got to...
What advice would you give to someone that's currently in law school and maybe they're struggling?
This, I think, is important because...
What have you done to really stand out and attract clients to your firm?
Every single client that comes to us knows that they're getting...
Do you think in big law firms, new attorneys usually get pushed down?
Different law firms are going to treat people differently.
Why did you become an attorney? How do you maintain empathy and that effective communication with your clients?
We're walking with you through this process, and we're going to make it easy on you.
How difficult is it, number one, being a business owner, number two, being a practicing attorney, and number three, having a family that you have to give time to? How do you manage that, and how difficult is it?
As far as scaling a law firm, I think you need to...
Well, Eric, thank you very much for being on the show. In one of your videos, you said, I just think from my experience over time, they're not always wins, but you picked the right case. And this one, it was a no-brainer. What do you mean by that? How do you know a case is worth going for, and how do you know which case not to go for?
That's a good question. So, we have a lot of different personal injury cases here. And sometimes it's not, sometimes it's clear that this is going to be a great case. We're going to win. And the reason is because the liability, meaning like who is at fault, is very clear, very strong, right? So if someone rear ends another person in a car accident, that's clear liability. So we know that's a strong case, right? Mm-hmm. And if whoever's in the car or whoever's injured is really badly the injured, or they're very badly hurt, we know it's going to be a slam dunk case because one, we're going to win the case on liability. The jury's going to come back and say the other person was at fault. And two, we have a client who's been severely injured, and we're going to be able to prove that with no problem. The big cases, and a lot of times when you see big verdicts, those are not no-brainers. Those are cases that have questionable liability, or they're more difficult. So there are cases where it's not extremely clear, like in a medical malpractice case, there's a very big dispute over whether the doctor committed harm to that particular patient. And then maybe it's clear that this person was badly harmed. They have very, very severe injuries. Those are cases that you tend to see go to trial more often, where there's questionable liability. There's a dispute as to who was at fault, but it's clear someone's really badly hurt. And as the plaintiff's attorney, we need to represent our clients, and we're going to go in and we're going to prove our case with experts, with evidence, with everything that we do. But sometimes those are more difficult cases, and a lot of times those are the perfect storm cases to get a big verdict. And it's because the defense doesn't want to pay because they believe their client didn't do anything wrong. And we go in and, that tends to be when there's a big dispute, you end up in front of a jury, and the jury ends up making the decision. And sometimes it's a win, sometimes it's a loss, but you as the plaintiff lawyer go in with, the thought and the belief and, the passion to represent your client and win.
And who are you going after? Are you going after the insurance company, or are you going after the person that caused the accident? Who are you going after?
So I say this a lot to when either clients come to our office or just in general, is that my goal is to never really, very rarely ever go after someone personally. Like, I don't want to go into the doctor's bank account if we're suing a doctor. I don't want to go, if someone crashed into my client's car, I don't want to try to go get any money from that person individually.
But it's possible?
It's possible, but it's a difficult road because people are able to protect their assets. And I could tell you a story in a minute, but the idea is that we're looking for insurance. We're looking that, if someone's been in an accident, they're likely going to have insurance, or a doctor commits malpractice, they're likely going to have insurance. Or if it's a big company, they're either going to have insurance, or they're going to be a company that's liquid, that's going to be able to pay a judgment. So the idea is we don't want to go after people's personal bank accounts. I don't like that. I take no pride in going after someone personally. They're living their lives. They're hardworking, So that's not my goal. I've had one or two times where we've had to go after someone personally. And it was like a
DUI or?
No, the case where I actually went after someone personally was just a horrific incident where a young woman, a man had given drugs to a young woman in his apartment, and she overdosed, and he did not call 911, or when he called 911, he waited for a very long time, and she ended up dying in his apartment. And the story got even crazier because another young woman had died in his apartment just like a year before under the identical circumstances, and this guy was evading being charged. And so we went after him personally, and the case did end up resolving and against him personally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's step back for a second.
Yeah.
Why law school? Why did you become an attorney?
I went to law school. My father was a lawyer. I didn't know too much about it. I knew I wanted to do something after my undergrad, after college, but I didn't know what it was. And I think it was something like a challenge to me. It was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And when I got in, my attitude towards like studying, and because like undergrad, I was just not a good student. And then once I got into law school and I started to learn like the nuances of like criminal procedure and like even like negotiable instruments like checks and stuff and contracts, there was something that like just it got me. And so I put everything I got into it, and it was just a whole different phase of, I guess, my life and studying and learning, and that was it. So once I was in, I've had a passion for law ever since.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. What advice would you give to someone that's currently in law school and maybe they're struggling? A lot of people struggle in law school, especially the first year, and maybe they're even thinking about dropping out. What would you tell to that law school student listening to this?
So this I think is important, because law school is not for everybody. And so it is a time where for some students, law school is right for them. They like it, right? And it's something that they're enjoying, they're learning, but maybe they're having a difficult time because it's hard and there's a lot of reading and they're just struggling to keep up. That they got to double down, they got to put their blinders on, and they got to put the time in. And if they put all that time in, they're going to feel so much better when they get to finals. And that means like really studying. I mean, spending just hours and hours and hours in the library, and not going out and partying like at night or on the weekends and crushing themselves so they can't go into the library on a Saturday or Sunday. Like that, if they can eliminate all the game playing and really focus, then I think they're going to succeed. Then there's another group of law students that law is not for everybody. Like they're there because, they're just, okay, they may want a career, maybe they want to make some money. Those are students I think that they need to reevaluate potentially what their career path is. Like law might be great, maybe they get a law degree, but when they graduate, figure something else out. Maybe go into finance, maybe go into business. Don't become a lawyer, like handling cases and representing clients. So there's different groups of people. And I know people that went to law school with me and they dropped out of their first year and they ended up doing great. They ended up going to business school instead and they did fantastic. So, I would say for the student that's struggling, you just got to put your blinders on, focus, and get help. Ask for resources. Ask professors. Ask other law students that have been there before, and they're going to do fantastic.
You said your father was an attorney.
Yeah.
Did you go to law school? Do you think it's also because you thought you had to meet a certain standard that you had to like surpass, or?
No, I think, listen, I did, in undergrad, I studied political science. I studied a little bit of international law, and there was something that interested me. I'll tell you, actually, it's funny because some of this stuff's coming back. Like, why did I go to law school? There was just an idea, okay, maybe become a lawyer. Like, that could be a good career, right? And I remember going into my, into like a college advisor, and it was like my junior year or something like that, and you have to take your LSATs by a certain time, and I went into this college advisor and I had told her, hey, I'd like to go into law school, like what do I need to do? And she made a comment like, well, the LSATs are in 3 or 4 months, like you're kind of late with this thing, and my suggestion is you shouldn't do it. Like don't even try. Like looking at my grades, looking at the timing.
You had a 2.3 GPA, is that correct?
2.3 GPA, yeah.
Okay.
So she was looking at my GPA. She's looking at timing of like when the LSATs are going to come up. And she's like, listen, law school does not look for you. Like maybe do like a something in international studies or something. I remember her saying that. And something about that was like, let's go take that out. Let's take the LSATs. And so I signed up for one of those prep courses and I studied as much as I could, and I got through the LSATs, and I didn't get the best grade, but it was enough to where I put myself on a trajectory where I could get into a special program in a law school and give it a shot.
Why personal injury? Why not any other type of law?
So why did I choose personal injury? When I was in law school, I thought that the goal when I got to law school was, for some reason, is to work at a big law firm and a big fancy firm, maybe on Brickell or wherever, like international, and have the great office and bill all the hours. And the idea was I wanted to make $100,000 a year. That's it. If I can be a law student, graduating law school and making six figures when I come out of law school, and that was a big, big deal back then I had it made. And so I focused on everything that I had to do to get into one of those big law firms. And I ended up in this trial, like this, big international law firm. I got my foot in the door. They're paying me great money. And I was in the trial department, and I started to notice that no one was going to trial. And the young lawyers weren't really taking depositions or going to court. They weren't doing nothing exciting. It was just a bunch of writing and research, and they're billing, and I'm getting yelled at about billing and all this other stuff. And I picked up a book as I was walking through the library one day, and it was called Trial Lawyer, because I didn't know what a trial lawyer was. And it was a book about all these little short stories about personal injury cases, written by a guy. He was a lawyer in Miami at the time. And I was just blown away. I was like, this guy is a courtroom lawyer. He's a trial lawyer. He's a soldier. The guy is going up against witnesses and expert witnesses and doctors and investigators and ferreting out fraud. And I was like, that's who I want to be. I want to be the guy that can go into a courtroom and just have the confidence that I can command the courtroom and I can cross-examine witnesses and I can talk to a jury. That's what I wanted to do. And so I quit that job. I don't think I gave any notice. I quit like that day. After I read that book, I quit. I found a job at a small personal injury law firm, they literally put me in a closet, and I was so happy. They put me in like this small little closet to do legal research for them. And I got in there, and I just put my heart and soul into it, and I just started to learn everything I could when I was in law school about personal injury law. Wow. And from then on, that was the goal, was to become a great trial lawyer and a great personal injury lawyer. Wow. Yeah.
Do you think in big law firms, new attorneys usually get pushed down? And
every single type of law have different law firms are going to treat people differently, right? And I think big law firms, I think they're great places for people to go if you can get in and it's something that you want to do and you enjoy it. And again, it's the bottom line is finding something that you really like doing. So I did not like working in that big law firm. I wasn't the fancy, lawyer that's going out to dinners and going to, I don't know, all the different, Miami restaurants and stuff. And, they wine and dine all the young law students. It's okay, right? You just want to, is that the type of lawyer that you want to be is at one of those big law firms? And it's fine. I know a ton of great, amazing lawyers that get their start there and they rise through the ranks. So I don't think they push you down. Actually, I think the big law firms give fantastic, unbelievable training to the young lawyers. And you get to learn from senior people who are very good at what they do in complex cases. And you make really, really good money. You're going to be spending a lot of time. You're going to be working. And that's what you have to be prepared for. I think anyone in law school who really wants to be a great lawyer needs to be prepared to put a lot of time in.
And how does an attorney find what type of law they actually want to practice?
You got to do what I did, which is you got to try different things. You got to look into different things, whether it's interning for a judge for a little bit to see different lawyers and different types of cases, whether it's, if I look at what I did through law school, I interned for a bankruptcy judge. I interned for, so I started to learn about bankruptcy. I interned for a magistrate judge. So I learned a little bit about federal stuff. And I worked at a big international law firm where I learned about, different types of defense cases and product liability and a bunch of other things. And then, and through all that, I found personal injury, and I found trial practice. And there was something that was calling me about being a trial lawyer.
That makes a lot of sense because you're not waiting until you actually pass the bar until you're trying to figure out what to do. So I think interning for judges would be like the best thing you can do, right?
Yeah, interning for judges, or start to look for a job when you're in law school at a different firm, at different types of firms. Clerk at one place, see how it is. Maybe clerk at a different place. Because lawyers aren't the easiest people to work with. And as a young lawyer or a law student, sometimes, you want to find a place where you really feel comfortable and you fit and you're getting treated right, by whatever lawyer it is that you're working with. And some stuff, it's really some stuff you're not used to. And maybe it's important for that lawyer to be a mentor and teach you what you need to know to become great.
Having started your practice right before 2020,
mm-hmm.
Well, you started in 2020, right before COVID.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I had already practiced for about 12 years or so. I started my career as a prosecutor.
Okay.
I was there for almost 2 years in 2007 to 2009 or so, and then I started to work for another law firm in Fort Lauderdale, big personal injury firm, and I was there for 11 years. And so I had already put crazy amount of time in as far as becoming a great trial lawyer and becoming the personal injury lawyer that I wanted to be, getting, massive verdicts, going in against the biggest companies in the world. And so I just got to a point where I was ready to be my own boss, run my own business, start my own, something for myself.
But you didn't have any experience owning a business beforehand.
No experience owning a business. But you get at a firm like I was at, I had just such great mentorship that I was able to, and I was always part of, I was there. I became a partner and stuff. So I was able to be part of the financial meetings and the planning meetings and the retreats and all the other things that we did to kind of get really good habits. And that was a foundation for when I left that firm in January of 2020, before the pandemic hit, having no idea the pandemic's going to hit. I had a lot of very, very good habits. And that was like starting early in the morning, working late, knowing how to manage a team, knowing, how to have, constant meetings and being able to manage cases. What I didn't know is how to market. I wasn't a great marketer. And that was something I had to really train myself as soon as I left and opened up my own firm.
But what were you thinking when COVID arrived and they shut everything down? What were you thinking? Were you scared?
When I think back at it, I don't remember being scared. I don't remember having a fear like I'm going to fail. Something about, and I left with 0 cases from the firm. But I had an idea of where I could get a few cases at the time, and I started to work on that. So January, I left. I tried a big case in February, and I got by, end of February, I had some cases signed up that I thought I'd be able to work on, as the next few months would happen. And then the pandemic hit. And I don't remember being scared. I remember just getting really pumped up about how can I start marketing right now during the pandemic? And really it wasn't even marketing. It was I had this interest in making videos like you make, you know what I mean? It was how do I make YouTube videos? How do I make constant informational videos, like these other, people on YouTube? And I started to watch YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos. And then I bought cameras, I had my own cameras. I bought my own audio. I got some lighting. And while the pandemic was happening, I just started making video after video after video and editing them myself and posting them up all in different Facebook groups. How am I going to let the world know that Eric Rosen doesn't work at this big law firm anymore? He has his own firm and he's looking, he's out here and he's ready to help people. Wow. And that's what I did. So I don't remember there being a fear. I just remember there being a motivation to just what do we do now?
It seems like a great marketer was born from COVID then.
I appreciate that.
Eric, it seems like all the billboards in South Florida, I think even the United States, are taken up by personal injury attorneys. Yeah. What do you think about billboards?
I don't have a negative feeling towards them. I think that firms, I wouldn't even have a problem having a billboard. They're very expensive, and the return on investment is a question, right?
How much are they?
They're a lot of money, thousands and thousands of dollars a month. Okay. So when you talk about seeing some of the big law firms, they're spending a lot of money. But a lot of money to one person may not be as much money to another person, right? It just as you grow in business, it's all of a sudden the money that you thought was whoa, that's outrageous. Yeah. It's oh, that's doable. You know what I mean? So when I see those big billboards, I think they're great. I don't know how much, if people are driving by and they see the billboard and say, oh, I'm going to call that number. But I do think there's a reinforcing effect. Yeah. That someone who keeps seeing the billboard there, and then when they go onto Google and they search and they see that same name, they go, oh, I recognize that. Click, and they call. So I don't have a negative feeling. Listen, if I could, I'm thinking about putting billboards up. Why not?
I would love to see you on a billboard.
I'm gonna do it, man. You're gonna see me all over South Florida.
Okay, so then what have you done to really stand out and attract clients to your firm?
Doing a great job. I try to stand out by doing a great job for our clients. That's what I want to do. I want them to have an amazing experience. That's one of our core values, is exceptional service, and it's putting the client number one. And so it's just going above and beyond, keeping them informed, keeping them in the loop, and then getting them a great result at the end of the case. So that is what we do to stand out. And that ends up leaving, people leave 5-star reviews. Other people are able to see that. That's really how I think you got to stand out, is that every single client that comes to us knows that they're getting a double board certified civil trial lawyer who's going to be managing the case. right? And they got a team of great people that are going to be involved and helping out and, there for them whenever they need them.
And do you have any networking strategies that have helped you attract clients to your firm, or?
Yeah, I think we just did a video about this, but I think one of the biggest networking things that I think young lawyers should do is they need to, if they're coming out of law school, they need to stay in touch with all their classmates and build a network, whether it's setting up lunches or dinners or some kind of events with those groups of people, because everyone's going to probably go into different areas of the law. Not everyone's going to do the same thing. And that's one of my regrets, was that I didn't stay completely in touch with all those people that I graduated with, because we were really tight back then. Now we still, they still see us, and it's still there. But I think building a network of the people that know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to support you, and you want to support them, having that network is key. It's crucial. And you can add one person to that group every, once a week, but keep in touch with all those people, because they're good people, they're friends, you're going to be able to hang out, have good relationships. And B, if a case comes to me, I know, hey, I got to call this guy because he's the guy in family law, or I got to call this, lady because she's just fantastic at criminal defense, So that is having a network of other lawyers and other people that are in your community is huge. I think my best cases, I say this all the time, my best cases come from other lawyers that know me. Wow. Because they trust when someone is catastrophically hurt or someone is killed, they say, let's call Eric Rosen, because I know he's going to take care of them. I know he's passionate, and I know that this is what he does,
And vice versa.
And vice versa. Right? Exactly.
Okay. When should someone file a personal injury claim? Let's say a car accident.
Most personal injury cases settle before a lawsuit, and so when we file a lawsuit, the lawsuit gets filed. And again, there's no specific time frame. I mean, usually if it's maybe 6 months goes by or whatever, that the case doesn't get settled for a fair number, then you just have to make a decision, and you talk to the client and you file. And the reason you file is because the insurance company or whatever defendant is just not willing to pay a fair number. We see it, a lot, but at the same time, we do settle a lot of cases before having to file a lawsuit. And that's a nice thing, because the case is done quickly. The client doesn't incur all the expenses that we advance, and then they have to pay us back at the end for that expense. So, we file a lawsuit when the time is right and we know that the insurance company is not willing to pay, so we make them pay. Okay.
Do you think someone should always hire a personal injury attorney?
I would say...
No matter the size of the accident?
Listen, I would. Yeah, I do. I do believe that no matter what the size of the injury, the client should bring in a personal injury lawyer, because I think almost universally that lawyer is going to add value to the case, so that if they handled it on their own, they would not get as much money in their pocket as if they had a lawyer and paid a lawyer and then get the disbursement. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other words, handling it on your own, they don't know what the steps are to actually work the case the right way and to be able to increase the value of the case. And so part of that is being able to talk to a lawyer and getting advice on all the different steps that come after an accident, from making sure that you're not giving away information to the other insurance company, because they can use that against you to their advantage, making sure that you're seeing the right doctors. I mean, you get a lot of people that they're badly hurt and they're not going to the right doctor. They're not seeing an orthopedic surgeon, or they're not going to a neurologist, and, they hit their head and lo and behold, a brain MRI shows something, or, they get an MRI later on and there's a herniated disc. And had they not had a lawyer at least giving them the explanation of how that treatment is important, seeing the right people, I mean, it can be thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars that they've lost.
So if someone gets in an accident, is an attorney the first person they should contact?
No, I think if someone's in an accident, the first people they call is the police. Okay. Right? The first people they're going to call is a police officer. Okay. To get the crash report, call an ambulance if they're hurt. Right. Get fire rescue out there. Typically, the police will get out there. But once all that's done and things are settled, it is good to get a lawyer involved early on, right away, So
what if they say something to the police that can be used against them?
I'm not concerned. I'm not so concerned about that. So, 99% of the cases that we get, 99.9, are after everything has already happened. Like the accident's happened, the police have been out there, and the investigation's done. One important thing that people need to know is any statements that a person makes to a police officer, is inadmissible against them later on.
Wow, interesting.
In connection with a crash. So if my client is in a crash and they say something to the police officer and he writes that in their report, no one can use that against them later on. It's called the accident report privilege.
Wow.
And vice versa. I've had this before where a defendant tells the police, I ran the red light. Okay, I made a mistake. And later on they've changed it and said, no, the light was green. And I can't use the statement against them.
Wow.
I can't use it. I have to have an independent witness. Statements by a witness to a police officer, I believe they are admissible, but there's an accident report privilege, so that's protected. So sometimes we get phone calls from the scene of the accident, and I say just cooperate, let them know what's going on, let them know that you're hurt. If you need an ambulance, ask for an ambulance, get the crash report, get the information, and get it to us.
Now, you're dealing with a lot of clients in distress after an accident, whatever happened to them. How do you maintain empathy and that effective communication with your clients?
Listen, people are hurt. We understand that. That's who we help on a day-to-day basis, and we understand what they're going through. And so, it's being there and kind of being able to guide them through that process. Like, we're not just their lawyer, we're like their guide. We're here to help. And we understand that it's going to be difficult. And what's nice about the lawyer and the team is that we take that off their shoulders, right? We take all that stress of having to, if it's processing their property damage claim, or how do I find the doctor, like those questions, right? What do I do next? Like, we're able to kind of jump in and take it. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we're here. We're representing you. Don't worry about speaking to the insurance company. We're going to speak for you. So it's kind of like, it's like we're here for you. We're walking with you through this process, and we're going to make it easy on you. So that's something I don't know, like empathy. Like, we understand, we care, we're here, but we're also here to step in and take it from you and run with it, so that you can worry about getting better, resting, focusing on what you need to focus on, and getting back on your feet to get back to work or whatever it is.
So you're kind of like a teammate.
Wow. I like that. Yeah. I mean, listen, whenever I go into trial, just going in, sitting with my client, that was like, why did I become a trial lawyer? Was because I saw great lawyers when I was a young, in law school, and I would go watch trials, and the image of the lawyer sitting there alone with their client, going up against an army of other lawyers, knowing that you're there with that person and you're going to be fighting for them, and you have the ability and skills and confidence to do it. Like, to me, that's like the epitome, right, of a great lawyer. And so that's who I wanted to be, and that's what we've done.
Well, you're a great lawyer.
I appreciate it.
What advice do you have to an attorney that wants to branch out and open up his or her own firm?
Listen, I think there are different people who are like, there are people that are able to open their law firm up very, very early on, and there's something about them. There's a business spirit to them. There's an entrepreneurial spirit that they're able to run with, and they succeed. There's other lawyers that may try to do that. They don't succeed because they just may not have all those great habits and all that background. And my suggestion is, for the young lawyer, is to, before you make that decision, is two things. One, you need to become an expert in the field that you're going to be taking cases. Like, you shouldn't just be like, oh, I want to be a personal injury and criminal defense lawyer, and let's open up the firm and learn it. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think you should become the expert. Like, I put 11 years in and tried a lot of big cases against major companies and lawyers before I said to myself, all right, I'm comfortable going out and handling these crazy, very complex legal cases on behalf of my clients.
It must have been tough making that decision, right? After 11 years, were you kind of comfortable in a way?
I was comfortable, but there was something. There was a drive that kicked me sometime in probably year 10, where you get into your mid 30s and stuff, and you kind of get into this area of like self improvement. You start to read books about becoming better at certain things, or like branching out in business, and that's something that I did. I read a book sometime probably year 10 at that law firm, and it was by Tim Ferriss, called Tools of Titans. I don't know what it was that brought me to it, but it was a book, and it was a compilation of all these billionaires and athletes and successful people and all the little tools and strategies that they use in their life and how that's helped them succeed, and in that book, it kind of started to give me plant the seed of like being my own business owner and being my own boss and marketing and, that kind of thing. So that helped make the decision. So there was a fire that was in me that helped me make that decision to make the move.
Now, in terms of scaling a practice, a law
Yeah.
practice, what would you say is the best way to scale?
I think as far as scaling a law firm, I think you need to grow. The firm should continue to grow. And that doesn't mean just like growing with like more clients and more people. It means I think everyone within the firm should be growing. Personally, you should be growing. But as time progresses, I'm a believer in delegation. I'm a manager, but I'm the entrepreneur and the person who's trying to come up with the ideas and marketing and things like that. And I think as part of scaling a law firm, you need to delegate. And as cases come in, for me, I had to let go of doing every little bit of legal work and every little thing that I used to do at my old law firm. I did every single thing on every single case. As time progressed, I started to get associates that were working for me I was delegating, and that helped me. And so I did the legal work initially. It was me and a paralegal when we first opened. And as we got more cases, I was able to bring in another legal assistant and then delegate more, and then bring in another lawyer and then delegate more. And then as more cases came in, another lawyer, another paralegal, another lawyer. And so that's, people that can handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff that I'm able to manage and oversee throughout the week. But I think that's slowly how you scale. And I look at some of these big firms and I say to myself, it's just incredible the management that goes and the organization that goes along with it. There's a lot to it, especially in law, because there's a lot of systems that need to be in place because you don't want to miss deadlines. You don't want to miss, God forbid, you miss a statute of limitations. So there's a lot that goes into it.
How many associate attorneys are working here today?
So we have 3 associates now.
And how do you manage them? How do you become a better leader every single day?
Yeah, like I'm always looking for ways to kind of I love all our cases and our clients, and so I'm able to kind of keep a pulse on everything that's going on in each case. And we have weekly meetings. Every Friday we have a team meeting with the whole firm gets together, and we go through a certain, we have an agenda that we go through, and we look at next week's calendar and who's going to be covering what. So we have a very good handle on what's going on all the cases. And on top of that, I think you got to incorporate like a software, case management software that allows you to really know what's going on in all the cases. So we have a great case management software called Filevine. Okay. And we have a number of other programs that I've integrated with
Which other ones?
We use Lawmatics, and we use something called Domo, which is a dashboard. And so we've just incorporated that. So we have a number of different things that are happening, but with that kind of software, it's very, very powerful, and you can kind of know on a day-to-day what's being done, what needs to be done. There's automation that's involved, so there's automated tasks that get delegated out to people so that we're all making sure that everything's getting done right on each particular case. So scaling, you got to have really good software, case management software, for sure.
Good. So let's say we're sitting down in 5 years, just like we are right now. What are some of your short and long-term goals for Rosen Injury Law?
I think the long-term goal is we're going to continue to grow. That's another one of our core values, is always growing, but it's not just as a firm. It's, personally, everyone on the team, I always encourage everyone to take new CLEs, and, if there's a program that's out there that's going to improve whatever it is that they're working on in their life or in business, I'd let them know. The firm will pay for it. But in 5 years from now, I mean, it's just going to be continual growth, becoming really like the number one. We are South Florida's local personal injury law firm. That's how I look at it. And
it's
maybe
powerful.
Eventually would become all of Florida's personal injury law firm. But right now, we are the local personal injury law firm. There's America's biggest firm here, and there's this firm there. This is our community. And so that's what I really want to become, is deeply ingrained in South Florida. And that's what we're slowly doing. You see me running around all these different bakeries and different places because I support the community. I support the local businesses. We're a local business. That's what I want to do. I really want to be like, when someone thinks of personal injury in South Florida, they think of Rosen Injury Law.
Do you think you're eventually gonna want to be in the United States, not just Florida?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay.
I haven't thought that far. And it's funny that you say that. I am a firm believer in setting out goals, and I've done these types of not projects, but I've put together a plan. You know what I mean? Like, I like to see, like, where am I going to end up in life? Like, what's my ultimate goal? And then let's work backwards. Like, what's my 20-year goal or my 10-year goal or my 5-year goal? That's not part of it, is becoming America's number one firm. It's never crossed my mind to be that big. I don't need to be that big.
Can you share some of those goals or plans that you have?
At the end of the day, you got to look back and say, was I a great father? Was I a great husband? Like, did I set something up for my family for the future? Did I make an impact in my community? Like, how am I going to be remembered? What am I going to remember? Like, when I'm laying on my deathbed when I'm hopefully 85, 90 years old, whatever that age
hopefully
is,
more.
am I going to look back and say, like, look at all the chapters of my life and be like, wow, like, I lived. It was amazing. Like, that was a wild ride. And so that's kind of like what the focus is that trying to set everything up in a way where, like, the people around me are going to be good. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be happy, healthy. And then how do you work backwards, right? And so setting up a business that is able to operate and run and support people and support me and my family. That's, one of the things that we're doing. So,
can you share some of the significant cases, wins that you've had?
Yeah, sure. Listen, I've had a lot of multi-million, huge verdict cases. I've kind of been known and throughout my career, my other law firm I was one of the lead tobacco lawyers. I was the lead tobacco lawyer at that firm, so I've tried a lot of big cases against Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds. And listen, those are great, are amazing cases. They're difficult cases. I'd say they're probably the most difficult cases, multi-week trials. But I've gotten verdicts in $28 million or $12 million, and then a number of multi-million verdicts throughout. I can't remember every single one, but sometimes it's not those massive verdicts that are like the big wins. Like, I tried a medical malpractice case in February of 2023, and it was a hard case, and it was on behalf of a young teenager who was hurt by a doctor, and we got a great verdict, an amazing verdict. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar verdict. It was below $1 million, but it was a big verdict for the case, and I'm so proud of that. I was so proud of that because that insurance company and these doctors, they valued it at zero. Wow. They said it wasn't worth anything, So,
can you tell us how you feel when you get someone the compensation they deserve?
It's unbelievable. Getting a win, and whether it's a win at trial or a settlement for a client, to me, it's like it fills my heart. And it's hard to explain. And people they'll be like, dude, are you being? I'm serious. Whenever I'm able to hand a check to a client, any client that we have, if I can hand a $10,000 check, if I can hand a $100,000 check, if I can hand $1 million check, whatever the number is, I know that for them it's going to have a lasting impact. It's going to have a big impact in their lives. It's going to help them financially, and financial stress is massive. People need to be honest about it, right? If you're not financially comfortable, or you're having financial stresses, or you're not able to work and you don't have enough money to pay the rent or whatever it is, that in the personal injury arena, that's our end goal, is getting compensation for our clients and being able to hand them that lump sum check that they can put in their bank, and whether it's use it to pay for their car payments, or to pay for a mortgage, or to get groceries, or to do whatever it is that's going to make them happy and comfortable. To me, that's why we do what we do.
Or to even replace their income.
To replace their income, yeah. I mean, listen, most people are going to try to continue, hopefully they're going to continue to work. They have their lives, but this is like that cushion, right? Not a lot of people, most people, I would say, they're not getting handed a $10,000 check or a $50,000 check out of the blue. I mean, how much do it just doesn't happens very, very rarely. And I'm not saying you want to get into an accident, but God forbid you're in an accident and things are going bad. It's just a huge, huge help.
It's funny that you say that, because I have a friend that he fell in high school. It wasn't even high school. It was middle school, I think, because the school was under construction. He was left in the classroom alone, and then he went to go to lunch or something, and he fell down the stairs and he completely broke his leg. Ooh. Completely. Yeah. It was about to fall off. and he got, I think it was $100,000 check, and he wasted it before high school. What advice do you have for people that receive a huge check?
Everyone financially is going to handle things differently. And it's a matter of finding the discipline and having it within you to spend that money wisely. You got to be careful. I mean, I can't, you let people know, like they should spend it wisely. Like, you use this because it's here, it's going to be for you. But some people will go out and buy that fast car, and you can't change that, But like, I've always been someone that's very conservative, and I think, like, even for the young, like, law students and lawyers that are coming out, you got to save, you got to put money away, you got to put money into a 401k. You got to plan ahead, because financial freedom is one of the goals, right? And that's always been a goal of mine. And that brings me back to another question that you asked, is like, when should like a young lawyer leave their law firm? So two things. One is when they become the expert at what it is that they're doing in type of law. And two is when they're financially comfortable and able to do it. Like, you shouldn't jump ship if it's going to cause you major stress at home. And, I was able to leave because I got to a point after 11 years where I felt comfortable financially, where I can say, okay, I can take this money and invest in myself and take the risk of not having a salary and benefits and things like that for the next year or whatever. So you got to be able to, like, it's not easy to just jump ship if you don't have a little bit of cushion, to help you.
That kind of brings up two follow-up questions. Number one, how long do you think it takes to become an expert in your field? And number two, what number would you say you need to have set aside to start your own firm?
The number is going to be different for everybody. I couldn't tell you. I can't tell you whether it's $50,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever the number is. I know that everything costs a lot of money these days.
Did you take out any loans or?
No.
It was all your money.
No, I wasn't going to take any loans. I mean, that you could take loans, but again, it's risky, and especially now with interest rates and things like that. That's not. You try to stay out of debt as much as you can, unless it's good debt. I wouldn't say that's bad debt if you have a plan. You need a plan. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, purchasing a piece of property and having a very low interest rate and then having rental income coming in that's paying the mortgage, that's good debt, right? Mm-hmm. But there's bad debt, like credit card debt, and things like that. So I don't know if there's a number. But as far as becoming the expert in their field, that could be anywhere. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. Maybe it's 3 years that you become really, really good at a particular niche that you're working on.
How do you handle setbacks in your firm?
Setbacks? I think that's like another one of our core values is let me think what it is. The idea is that there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be mistakes that are made, and the idea is that we share about it, we talk about it, and we're able to fix it, right? So, like, everyone's encouraged, if something gets screwed up, if someone sends something to the wrong person they shouldn't have sent it, or something happens, there's a mistake or there is a setback, the idea is that, like, let us know right away. Like, you're not going to get in trouble for letting us know, because now we can fix it. You're going to be in big trouble if you sweep it under the rug and we don't know that it happened, and all of a sudden there's a snowball effect. So encouraging people to be open and honest and having the integrity to just share. I remember I had years and years ago, before this law firm, I had a paralegal that sent something to a defense attorney that they weren't supposed to send. Wow. And she immediately walked in and said, "Eric, I messed up. I did this." And I said, "I thank you for letting me know." And we were able to get on it and fix it, and no harm, no foul, no big deal. So those are kind of, listen, there's going to be setbacks, but you just push forward. You gotta be confident that everything's going to be okay.
How difficult is it, number one, being a business owner, number two, being a practicing attorney, and number three, having a family that you have to give time to? How do you manage that, and how difficult is it?
Listen, when I was, so again, I was talking about this with somebody else recently, but there's different phases in your life where, if you were to look at a pie chart, like, there's work, there's family, there's finances, there's, a whole bunch of different buckets, there's business. And as time progresses, those things, like the amount of time that you put into each, changes over time, And so when I was with my other law firm, I was able to focus really 100% on just being a lawyer, mm-hmm. right? And then, not 100%, let's say 90% on being a lawyer, 10% family, because you got to put in a lot of time. Becoming a business owner, again, there's a lot of time that's involved in business. There's a lot of time in family. As you grow older, you have much more responsibilities. I manage it in a way because I love it. Like I really enjoy it. Like I love running the business. I love being a lawyer. I love teaching the other younger lawyers in my office and training and mentoring and answering questions. So while they're working on cases and they have questions that come up, I always make myself available. And at the same time, I'm constantly trying to, meet other young lawyers and, young up and comers, to mentor the younger generation. It's, I guess if you can find the balance of delegating things out, really trusting that other people are going to do a great job and then being there for them to support them, then you can start to find more time for other things. Like that was part of the reason I opened a business. And it was almost like counterintuitive is I opened a business so I could spend more time with my family, to be my own boss, to grow into something where I can work on the business. I can also practice law, and I can also spend a lot more time and make my own hours when I want to. And, there's a lot of balancing there, but it works if you set it up right.
But you're probably working more hours now, right? Being the owner of your practice.
I always work. It's like it doesn't stop.
You're always working.
It doesn't stop, but you find a way to balance like what's going on. So like I'm always working, but when I say I'm always working, it's like if I'm at the gym and I'm like on a Stairmaster, if I'm running or if I'm jogging or whatever, I'm constantly thinking. You know what I mean? It's like that's part of being a business owner. So when everyone else gets to go home and go to sleep and not like for the most part, like their job is done at 5:30, it doesn't stop. But you're also able to find time to be able to spend that time with other people, But yes, it is as a business owner, it's always there.
How important do you think working out is to manage stress?
Extremely important. I think like being healthy and getting good exercise. I think it should be a priority for everybody. I mean, I incorporate every single morning. Like lately, I'm training for a marathon right now. So I get up in the morning, I run a bunch of miles in the morning. I do a cold plunge in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's been a game changer. I started doing this cold plunge like a couple weeks ago, and it's like my life has changed, like my attitude and like my health. Like I just feel good.
And you do that every single day?
Yeah, every day. I did 7 minutes at 45 degrees this morning. I feel great though. You know what I mean?
It's great for your health.
It's it's something that's I just started doing it recently, but I love it. And it's like, I don't want to miss a day. And like, you don't want to get out too soon because it's just, it feels so good. But I think that eating healthy, having a good diet, I mean, cause all that stuff, you could just let it go, and I've seen it happen. I mean, I've had it happen myself where it's like, you kind of start to trail off. I always work out, but sometimes you trail off with the diet a little bit and, your weight fluctuates. And so trying to be disciplined with that is really important because you're just going to feel better,
If you could go back to yourself 3 years ago and really speak to yourself, what are some pieces of advice you would give to yourself for starting your own practice?
I think I'd probably say, listen, I don't have a lot of regrets, right? I think there's been probably money spent maybe where like we shouldn't have hired this team, I decided I wanted to hire like a PR team, and they did a crappy job making a logo. I would have said, don't spend a few $1,000s with this company that's going to give you 2 logo options. Like spend $99 on 99 designs and you're going to get a million different logos that you can pick from. And that would have saved a little bit of money, or spend more money on, having that social media stuff start up. But again, it's a matter of, you grow with it. Like I didn't have the funds at the time to bring in a videographer to help me. Like I just bought a couple cameras and started making my own videos. But eventually your time becomes so much important. I can't be editing my own videos. I got to hire someone that's going to edit them for me. I can't be doing a lot of things. I got to have someone else do it, and so that's something that we've, as you grow.
Do you think there's like a certain skill that you would have told yourself, hey, master this skill so you can really scale your practice?
As far as business?
Yes.
Okay, let me think. So 3 years ago, what would if you asked me, what would I tell myself 3 years ago? I would say like, put your seatbelt on because you're in for a wild ride and you have no idea what's about to happen, because like I couldn't imagine this, you know what I mean? It was like all of a sudden these things just started working. And so I'm very, very pleased with how it's all worked out. But no, I can't.
So there aren't any major mistakes that you think to yourself, hey, I wish I would have learned this 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
There, I would say, and I, you know this, but I would be very wary, like about online marketers, things like that, people that are trying to sell you on their way to market. And you think that I worked with a web design company, and they made certain promises to me, and I trusted them. I thought they were great, and then, as I outgrew them, and we went our separate ways, the way we separated was just it was a sad way to end a relationship, and it was very disappointing. And the promises that were made, I felt that they were broken. And so I would say go back and really, whoever it is that's going to be helping you, make sure they're really great, make sure they're honest, good people, and that they're there for you. And they're looking out for you. So there's stuff like that. It's not easy, because if you go on, for a lawyer or a young lawyer, you're going to be bombarded with a million different types of marketers and online marketers, and people that are, here to say, oh, I'm going to get you these leads, or I'm going to get you these cases, or I can get you 500 cases a week. And a lot of it, there might be one unicorn, right? But a lot of the experience that I've had, because I'll take calls. I want to see how are they getting 500 cases a month? Where are they coming up with this? And then once you start to speak to them, you could see, it's not as straightforward, or it's not truthful, or they're going to be making, over promising stuff. So you just have to be wary about who you choose to be on your side.
So aside from referrals, how are you getting clients?
We do everything. I mean, everything that we do is referrals. It's online marketing. It's through Google. It's through growing organically. It's advertising stuff. It's everywhere. It's so many different buckets that we have that are going at one time, and doing an amazing job with clients.
I noticed on your Instagram that you're helping other attorneys find clients. Does that seem
yeah
all right?
Yeah.
What are you doing to?
Whenever we get cases, I mean, that's part of what we do is if we get a lot of calls, right? And we do a lot of different marketing. And even though we're Rosen Injury Law, for some reason, I get landlord-tenant phone calls, or I may get a call for someone who is a criminal defense. They got a DUI, or they may have a business dispute or something like that. We get calls. And so how do we help those lawyers get good leads? We're here, we're lawyers. We get calls all the time. And that's the network of people. So the referral network is a lot of people. We say, listen, what area of the law do you practice? If it's outside personal injury, join the network. So when that phone call comes in and we get to build a relationship, we talk and we get to spend time, maybe we'll have dinner and things like that. So we're building relationships with whatever lawyer it is that's joining with us. But then I know, okay, criminal defense case, call this guy.
So how many people are in that network right now?
Dozens. It's we got 60 or 70 lawyers, I think, that have joined something. It could be more than that. I don't know the exact number. I don't really look at the number, but a lot of people have joined the network, and I think it's great. Whenever we get cases, we'll pick, we got a number of different people that we could send them out to.
How would you define success?
How do you define success?
In your world.
In my world. Okay. Success to me is happiness. Doing something that you're really passionate about, that you enjoy, that when you go to work every day, it's not work. It's something that you look forward to doing, right? That's success to me. And it's that, that's the work side, right? Success is happiness at home. Being able to spend time with your family, quality time with your kids, with your spouse, with your loved ones. That's success to me. Being able to be happy with what's going on. There's a lot that goes on in your mind, right? When you're are you struggling? Are you having difficulty? Are you waking up at night with something bad that's going on? Or are you waking up with the normal stresses, things like that, and able to fall back asleep? I think that's success. At the end of the day, you got to be happy. And there's so many people that are in a dead end job, or they're just grinding away here, or they're doing something for a paycheck, just for the paycheck. And my thought is if you're not happy and you're not enjoying what you're doing, then you got to retool it. You got to rethink what is your plan? Because you only got one shot at this life. Literally, you only got one shot. So you better make it good, and it better be a wild ride, and you better have fun doing it. Because I'm telling you, I hear too many people that they're just they're people that are unhappy. And listen, there's going to be bumps in the road, and I pray that things have been good, and there's going to be bumps, and you're going to deal with those bumps. But that's how I would define success. It's not just I've got millions of dollars in the bank, or I've got this house, or I've got that, or whatever it is that, people think is happiness. Okay, because a lot of times you may see that person driving the Lamborghini, you got no idea that what they're struggling with, or that they have God knows how much debt. So that's it. I think it's not just financial; it's being financially comfortable, but it's being happy with where you are in life.
It's awesome. So Eric, I don't think you're a great attorney. You're a great marketer, and I think what you're doing in marketing is to another level. But I want to help you take it to the next level, and I brought you a little gift.
Okay.
It's, I think, one of the best books I've read in my life. You read, right? You
I
read
do,
a lot?
I do. Yeah.
So I have it right here. Hopefully you haven't read it yet.
Okay.
It's $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi.
Okay.
Have you read it?
I have not.
Okay, so it's going to be a great book.
All right.
You're going to have to read it over and over and over again. But it's one of the best books you'll read it in your life, for sure.
Definitely check it out, man. $100 million leads. Wonderful.
So, Eric, it was a pleasure sitting here with you for a couple of minutes and really explore your mind.
Sure.
And what you've done to be successful and a great marketer. So thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Absolutely, man.
And look forward to growing our relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Eric.
Wonderful, man.